Hey scholars, so now you've entered the guided practice section of today's lesson. For today's lesson, I'm not going to be showing you how I annotate just because I am still working out some things with my camera. So for right now, you're just going to be following along as I read, and then I'm going to guide you through how I'm thinking about how to answer the first question that comes after that guided practice. What was the Emancipation Proclamation? In July 1862, the U.S. was in the middle of the Civil War. The North fought to keep the country together with Abraham Lincoln as president after the Southern states separated to form the Confederacy in 1860. Slavery, under which African Americans had no freedom and could be bought and sold like property, was allowed. At that time, there were millions of slaves in the U.S. The Confederacy was fighting to keep slavery, and in the beginning, they were winning. Lincoln saw a way to free some of the slaves and also help the Union Army. President Lincoln met with his advisors and read something he wrote, which would eventually become the Emancipation Proclamation. It said the following: all slaves living in the Confederacy would be free after January 1st, 1863, and that freed slaves could join the Union Army. September 2nd, 1862, Lincoln told the Confederate States that they could come back to the Union. If they didn't, he would free all their slaves by January 1st, 1863. He also said that freed African Americans would be able to join the Union Army. The Confederate States did not accept Lincoln's offer. So on January 1st, 1863, Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation. Even though the Emancipation Proclamation was signed, no slaves in the South were actually freed at the time because the Confederacy was at war with the Union and didn't follow the law. In the end, the Emancipation Proclamation did help the Union. As Union troops marched to the South, hundreds of thousands of enslaved African Americans ran away from their captors and escaped to freedom. About 200,000 free black men joined the Union Army. All right, so now I'm going to go back into the form where the lesson's on. I'm going to look back through them and read the first question. What did the Emancipation Proclamation do? So I'm going to look in paragraphs 1, 2, and those 2 bullet points, because this is likely going to be in the beginning of what we read, because if we don't know what the Emancipation Proclamation is, we wouldn't have a reading to read. So we're looking at those first 2 paragraphs, and then here I found it. In the second paragraph, I'll highlight it in just a second. Let's see, if I click here, yeah, there we go. So President Abraham Lincoln met with his advisors. All slaves living in the Confederacy would be free after January 1st. So the Emancipation Proclamation was in order to free the slaves from the Confederacy after January 1st, and that freed slaves could join the Union Army.